All right, so kind of finishing up lesson one, assignment one, whatever it's called. We kind of left out arpeggiating. We did one and two, and this is from the text I sent. And left out arpeggiating, and arpeggiating is going to be a booger, and it's important to know. And so I think what I would just do is, rather than going through all the keys per se, just be able to play a major and a minor arpeggio, a triad for each of those keys. So in other words, for the key of E, a minor triad is E, G, B, right? A major triad is E, G sharp, B. And even if you play it with one finger, part of the idea is to be able to get to know the fretboard in bigger spaces, as compared to, kind of following this either a 1-2-4 or 1-3-4 shape or shapes. Kind of, you can still say these are shapes, triads, but on one string they're really spread out, and that's the whole idea. And so just know that it's not something that you're going to choose to play a minor triad, right? You're not going to choose to play it that way, but you could be going from the 1 to a flat 3 to a 5, and if you can at least find the root of each of those things, that's half the battle, because once you know the root, then you can kind of sneak in your shapes and everything gets a little easier. So be able to arpeggiate a major and minor triad for each of those keys that we're working on: E, F, G, A, B, and C. So E again is E minor, major, minor, major, F, right? And it's, you need to spell it out. F, A, C is a major triad. Minor, the fifth is the same, right? And again, with the other exercises, say the notes as you play them. F, A flat, C, A flat, F, A flat, C, A flat. They go into major. F, A, C, A, F, A, C, A, F, A. Just don't get into the habit of not saying the note names. Get into the habit of saying the note names, especially on this one string assignment. The idea is to focus everything down to a small portion of the instrument, so that we're not distracted by everything else going on. And a lot of these things, you're going to end up playing notes out of, you're going to do a lot of one string stuff for bass lines, and not just on the 6th string. You might be doing it on the 5th string as well. So F again was F, A flat, C, or F, A, C. As far as what finger you use, I don't really care. I would try to end up with your pinky being the top note. So whether that means you go index, pinky, or index, ring, pinky, or index, middle, pinky, or whatever it is. But you want to kind of stick with that pinky being the top note. And so if you're in G, a major triad, G, B, G, B, minor, A, and then major, so just work it out. Be able to do it, in a reasonable pace. 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, so that you just know it. And so it becomes a tool. So right now it's not something that you're going to jam out with, and it's probably the most boring thing on the earth to do. But just get it done. Get the first string done. As far as playing the scales, back to the first part of the lesson or assignment, in other words, playing Ionian on one string, we were starting on the root. So E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, E sharp, E, G. What you want to get in the habit and idea of doing is not thinking of the scales from their root position in relationship to your instrument. And so, because then they are always a shape. And as you know already from your pinky shape, now that you've led up, say you're an E, right, you've gotten used now to leading up to the octave with your pinky. That's just fine if you keep doing that, or you think of it that way, but don't forget this part. You know your pinky shape, Ionian shape already, right? Well, don't not see T and La behind it. And if you, point being is where we want to get to is seeing the lowest note possible. So in E, then the lowest note possible is E. Go figure. It's the lowest note we can hit. So there's really nothing that changes. F would be the first time something could change. So if I started F Ionian on the 6th string, 1 string only, but I started from the lowest note possible within that scale, then I would have to start with T or E. T-do. If I were in G, what is the lowest note possible in G? And this is where you're going to want to need to look at some key signatures. For one, to know whether to call a note sharp or flat. And two, to know when you're choosing from those notes, which ones you're going to select from. But if it'll also tell you what notes are in the scale. So if I'm thinking G, what is the lowest note of the scale? Well, if I go G, I descend till I get to where I can't descend anymore. So I have Do, right? T. What we're used to is this, where the pinky is here, and then we have T. We don't play a flat 7, but we go to 6. In this case, it would be an open string, which is E. Therefore, E is the lowest note, I can hit in G Ionian on my instrument. So if I started the scale, it doesn't necessarily sound like, right? Because it goes T, La. In A, what's the lowest note? Well, if I think of having my pinky on the root, T, La, a whole step behind La is Sol, and in this case it would go half and then half again, which is an E string. Right? So if I started the A Ionian scale from the lowest note possible, I get an E, F sharp, G sharp, doesn't sound like A Ionian anymore. That's a good thing, believe it or not. And so consider these things when you're practicing. Practice Ionian. The whole lesson now, number 1 was learn the notes of the 6th string. Number 2 is play Ionian, ascending and descending in E, F, G, A, B, and C. And now you want to play Ionian in those keys, but start from the lowest note possible on your instrument. And then 3 was arpeggiate Ionian using, we can use triplets or not, but point being, you're just going to arpeggiate major and minor triads for E, F, G, A, B, C, meaning you're not going to arpeggiate the entire Ionian scale. You're just going to do a major and minor for the root of E and F and G and A and B and C. And so work that out, and remember that it's a little goofy playing a major triad that far apart. But if I was doing a triad exercise, I might end up with 5, 3, 1 in my exercise. So I would already have known half of that just by knowing this off of one string. So work on that stuff. We'll talk next time.